what are the boxes under the search results? I'm drawing a blank right now. But
oh, you would ask me.
Yeah,
no, I don't remember.
Anyway, there's all
site links.
Site links.
Site links.
Yeah. So
We're experts.
A poorly designed and poorly coded website cannot pull site links. Hey there, guys. It's Nolan Walker and Jason with the Webmasters.
Howdy.
This is a combination podcast and video, however you're looking at it. And today's discussion, we're going to go over web design. Some of you guys know, Jason is the creative director. And so I guess the first question is, I mean, it's kind of general. We'll go through some categories. First off, before I ask and start in on some dialogue on this, everything we do here is to help companies make profit. So if design isn't part of that, it's going to hurt your bottom line because it hurts your ability to optimize online. That's why you should listen to this series on it and kind of help yourself get comfortable with why you need design, even though you may or may not understand why or think you do. So I guess the first question, Jason, is why is it important?
Well, it's pardon me. It's important to remember that design is not just how pretty it looks or whatever. Design is how it's put together. Design is how the information is structured. And you're accomplishing two different things with good web design. One is structuring your information properly so that Google reads it, knows who you are, what you do, where you are, and likes it, and puts you at top of search results. And then obviously once you get that top search result and you get that click and your customers go to your website, they go to it and it's pleasing and it's easy to find stuff, and so they stay and they look at it and then they call.
So a good looking website can basically not optimize.
Yeah, you can have the most beautiful website in the world, and if the underpinnings of it are bad, Google's going to ignore it, or if the content is bad, Google's going to ignore it.
So one thing I run into all the time when I'm talking to you guys when you call up here is that and you like your website or it looks good and you don't understand why it needs to be redone. But Google, a lot of the things that he's talking about, Google actually is able to parcel data better from the site if the coding's done better. And so that all starts with the design, and the design, the look of it is all this coding behind the scenes. If any of you've ever seen a page full of code, that's kind of where they start reading that web presence, right?
Right.
And the ability for it to optimize. So do you have it? How about talking about schema code, for example?
Schema code is actually a relatively new thing. It's only become big in the last 2 to 3 years. It's an extra layer or an extra set of attributes you can add to the code on your site that helps Google better parse what they're looking at. And
an example, like one of the parcel data points.
One of those is location. This is a big one, actually. This is, if there was only one form of schema code you could put on your site, your business type and location set would be the big one. And it tells them what your business category is, and then you have a specific structure that they want to see that describes your physical location, your address, city, and all that stuff. And I mean, even your phone number and things like that.
So I've got a question for you. So what's different about, so you've got, and guys, so from my perspective, I talk to people all the time about this. So what's different about what they have now, and what's their phone going off in the background? Like, what's different about what they have now on like a template? And guys, in case you're not aware, if anybody's listening to this, it's because you don't optimize as well as you should. So this is really just a trying to help you understand why and kind of help your brain get to the point to where you understand it. But what's different about what 99% of the people have on a template, even though their webmasters may have told them it's not a template, but it is a template? And so what's different about what they have and what we do on schema code?
Well, hardly anybody. We actually jumped on to really high-end schema coding a couple of years ago, and we did a really deep dive on it and built it into our frameworks, which is frameworks are kind of the starting point of how we build sites. And we basically, for lack of a better term, we label at a code level everything on that site. This is the this is definitely your phone number, this is definitely your address, this is definitely your logo, this is definitely your company name.
Okay, so definitely as opposed to Google having to guess
Exactly
what it is.
If
right?
you've just got, if you don't have schema, Google looks at your site and they have to kind of think, well, I think this is the correct phone number because maybe somebody entered a wrong phone number on some page.
If it's Bob's home service company compared to Tom's home service company, and Google has to say, well, is it Bob or is it Tom? Say, well, Tom didn't tell us. We think this is his body content. We think this is his address. We think this is his logo.
Yeah.
But the other guy they know.
Yeah, the other guy they look at and they're like, bam. And they like that better.
And
they like it when you make it easier for them to figure out who you are. And there's other things. There's another form of schema that's really useful for reviews. Like when you have reviews on Google, Facebook, whatever, there's a form of schema that you can put in your aggregate rating, like your 4.5 or 5 stars or whatever you've got. And if you've ever looked at a Google search result, you probably saw some of the people near the top. You would have their name, a link to their site in the Google search result, and then there would be reviews, and there would be 4 yellow stars there.
So let me interject here because I explain this to people all the time. So if you type your name in a search engine or your company name and the city, you'll see all the stuff about you pop up, your Google Knowledge Graph, your website, you'll see your Facebook and Yelp and all and BBB and all this. Facebook, Yelp, and BBB and Home Advisor, all that have aggregate star rating next to your listing on their site with your reviews popping up. The difference is that you normally only see that on national company websites or really well done stuff, and local sites still to this day probably don't have more than like 5% of them that have it. And so it's actually on your website those 5 stars pop up. So you get as many keywords as you can, number 1, but let's say you're number 4 for a keyword, you're the only guy with 5 stars sitting next to your name. And it draws the eyeball like right down to it. Not only that, Google gave you a better grade for it. The conversion's higher. It does all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, when your customer's looking at that list of search results and you're the only one with those stars, like you said, eye goes there and they say, oh, this one's got 5 stars, and that's the one they click on. Yeah. Even if maybe it's 2 or 3 instead of number 1.
So what we're talking about is actually some of the experts in the industry doing this here, which we've paid money to have these human resources here in this level design. And other people you talk to are just lip servicing, saying, yeah, schema, yeah, SEO, yeah, this stuff. And this is actual stuff that we do in here. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, after doing this for almost a decade with this business, that I don't know of anyone doing schema to this level. In fact, we went and looked at national websites one time and compared ourselves to name brand American brands you've heard of, and we had a higher level schema going into a little local site than the name brands had. We did that about a year ago.
Yeah, because we did a seriously super deep dive on schema and incorporated it into everything we did.
I got to tell you something. This video or podcast is good enough for industry experts to sit there and glom information off of it. One of the reasons I don't like doing them, but if you are glomming information, this is a good one. You can learn how to be a better web company by listening to us on it. Okay, so let's go into some more basic stuff like semantic markup on it. What is semantic markup and why does it matter?
If anybody out there's ever looked at done the view source on a web page they were looking at, you saw a whole bunch of gobbledygook you didn't understand, and you saw a whole bunch of stuff inside caret brackets where you got a little caret bracket and then you've got like header or a P or a div and then another bracket.
So say it's some guy listening that owns a company and doesn't care about any of that.
Yeah.
So why does he care?
Well, I'm getting to that.
Yeah.
And it used to be that stuff didn't mean anything. It was just gobbledygook. And then semantic markup is a little bit like schema in that it helps tell the search engine what the parts of the page are. And again, as with schema, Google likes to see that, and they give you credit for basically making their job easier. If they look at the site and it's not generic markup, it's semantic markup, telling them this is the header, this is the body content, this is the H1, H2, H3, and those are the header labels, and that tells them that, like the H1 tells them this is the subject of this page, and the H2 tells them that that's a related subject but not as important, and on down the line. And that gives them a better idea of your business. They like that structure and they grade better for it.
I want to draw a correlation here on this is that, so what he's saying is that this parceling of data goes into like body content, and even though this is a web design discussion, if you can go write great content, and by the way, content's a whole different category, but great content, we have 9 people writing, and you think you write good content, but it goes on a whole different scale. But without the semantic markup, Google's not going to judge your content as well. And so I'll get people call me all the time that say, hey, you do this, you do that. Go, hey, I'm calling to dictate what I want you to do in your professional services, even though I don't know I don't know how to do what you do. So just Nolan, just blog or just write content and get me up to the top of search rankings, and I'll
do SEO on my site.
Yeah, do SEO, and I'll be like, and so I realize immediately that I have someone that's not listening to me, and I'm like, this is going to be difficult to get them to where they need to go, because they called the professional not being the professional and telling us what to do. Yeah. And then this is why I'll hesitate and go, well, Bob, we can't just write content and get you to the top of search rankings. And then they'll say why, and it's because all this stuff behind it. I wish that I could have people watch this before we talk to them, so they can go, okay, I believe in proper coding, Nolan. Yeah. I believe in proper web design. You know, it's not, web design people is completely misunderstood. So, and I, you know, can we talk about clean coding?
Yeah.
Like, so
this actually follows right on.
It follows right into it. Let me say something. When I'm on the phone, because I'm not a designer, a web designer. Jason's been designing websites since you could actually design a website. And so I haven't done that, and I can't design a website. So if I'm on the phone with a client and this happens, they're like, Nolan, I love my website. I just paid $1,500 for it, $5,000 for it. I've had people pay $30,000 for their website. Yeah. And they'll say, well, listen, sir, we charge a monthly fee. We can actually get you set up and running with most cases without even charging you for the design. I can't do the work. We won't do the work without the design. And we won't because of this, because it won't work. And I'll send that client while I'm on the phone over to Jason and say, hey, please tell me what's wrong with the site so I can explain it to the client. And then he'll go through it, and clean coding and some of these other items that we just talked about.
Clean comes up every time.
Comes up every time. So please explain clean coding and on a template.
Clean code is kind of what it sounds like. It means that you don't have a lot of extraneous garbage that clutters it up. And there's 2 reasons it's bad, or to not have clean code. One is that when there's extraneous code in there, it makes it more difficult for the search engine to figure out what's what and to figure out who and what you are, and that gets you a lower grade in ranking. And the other thing is if you have a ton of garbage code in there, you end up with a larger site in terms of download, and download speed is also a big factor. So these 2 things work together, and stringy code, or so what we call spaghetti code, just doesn't optimize as well. And especially when you're talking about using, as Nolan was about to say, templates, downloadable templates that are free or you only paid $60 for.
Or the web company you paid $3,500 or $5,000 paid $60.
Yeah, they paid $60 for, and then just had a guy go in and customize some colors or whatever.
Customize, yeah, right? Like customize.
The templates like that are almost always about 5 years behind the sort of current standards for code, and so they'll have tons of extraneous stuff that doesn't need to be there in order to make that little widget in the corner that you like so much that pops up and tells people to call or whatever. That looks great, and maybe it works a little bit, but I guarantee that there's a cleaner and better way to do the same thing. And they're using some template or some code library that's 5, or I've seen stuff, Nolan has sent me sites to look at that I'm looking at, I'm like, this code is 10 years out of date. This is horrible. This isn't working for anybody. And we clean it up and we get rid of the stuff you don't need, and that's one of the big things. design as a discipline outside of web design, one of the big things is cut away anything that's unnecessary and doesn't have a function. And with web design, we do that in a vicious fashion, and anything that doesn't have a purpose needs to go.
So, all right, so, and again, guys, Google grades this stuff, and so if it's dirty code, which is indicative too of it'll have poor schema, poor semantic markup, that'll all just run along with that. So if you've got that, and the code gets dirty too, Jason told me one time, because the freelancers that make the websites will use derivative versions of it over and over again, just leave all the junk in from the other one they did, right?
Yeah, they'll come in and you had your website done by a guy and you paid him $5,000 and then he disappeared off the face of the earth and you needed it updated. And the new guy and you got a new guy to come in and you didn't want to redo the website because you liked it, so you had a new guy come in and he dug into it and he added his own stuff on, but he didn't like the stuff the other guy did. But he left some of it there, and it just becomes, I mean, I've looked at this stuff, and it's really obvious that there's like been 3 or 4 different successive people that have bolted weird crap onto it, and it barely functions.
I mean, that too, I was talking about like the people who produce the templates. Like the templates themselves are all weirdly coded.
Oh yeah. Oh well, a lot of times templates are open source.
Yeah.
And open source is great in some ways. It
Yeah.
can help develop really cool stuff, but open source tends to be a committee of people all adding stuff in.
Right.
And the same thing happens is different people work on it, and it becomes really sort of it becomes sort of schizophrenic, and it just doesn't work
And
as
Google
well.
gives you a bad grade because it's all sloppy and it's taking up server space. And
It's taking up server space. Their algorithm is having to work harder to figure out what it is, and
So I tell you, so a couple of things here on, well, for one thing, I want to kind of do a recap, but the grade is the important thing. So Google starts at the design level and then grades you. And then everything else has to be done properly, but that's for another episode. That's for a different time, but your content, your Google account work, your links, your citations, your regular ongoing work in blogging and social media and reviews and all that. But they're going to grade everything. And if you had, a 5-legged racehorse and it was missing a leg, or 4-legged racehorse missing a leg, I'm just saying 5 because there's so many different categories, but you just can't take legs off of it and go, hey, I want to optimize, but I'm not going to give you a major component to optimization, Google. We're just going to fall completely apart on that. And if your competitor decides to say, hey, we're going to be the best at everything we can do, they're obviously going to do better and get a better grade from Google. So if you take away a quarter of what needs to be done, it's going to be really tough it's not going to do 25% less. It may not even show up because the competition is so fierce in these markets. Yeah. In some markets, we have millions of people in the market, and there are literally thousands and thousands of the same type of business.
Yeah.
And so you can be in a smaller market too and still have dozens and dozens. There's only like 5 spots you want on mapping and 5 spots you want on organic. You need as many as high as possible. And if you decided to shirk this, not understand it, throw your fingers in your ear, call and yell at people, if you guys are here listening to us, you're obviously already kind of tuned in better and go, hey, I'm wanting to seek out knowledge that's better. And so that's where people find us in the first place, right? So they get messed around, they don't trust people, and you could not have had this conversation with the people that telemarket you on the phone, or people that you've run into that you all of a sudden that's one of the problems. I think, I'm telling you, I'd say most of the clients that I ever run into eventually buy services from those that seek them out.
Yeah.
I always tell people this, the one thing that all web companies have in common that you've heard about that have a lot of clients are they're aggressive marketers. All of our clients come in through organic measures, whether it's somebody watching a video or listening to podcasts like this, or if they found us on social media, or of course organic top search rankings. And so that's how our clients come to us, and there's typically a more informed, smarter client. A guy wising up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the one thing that I want to come back to too is, so it's a grade, it's important, and it's important that you know, what the client's opinion is versus what is the actual deal. So if you think you don't need web design because you arbitrarily decide not to, it is your job as a business owner to do the best for your business, to invest time to get educated. Like if you made it to the end of this, to say, hey, I'm going to educate myself as to why the marketing's important in the different aspects. So if what your opinion is versus what's actually going to happen, I don't care what Nolan and Jason say, I'm going to do this cheap design and I'm going to go get somebody to do what I told them to do, which was to slam content into it. So if that's the tactic, it won't work well. And then eventually the small amount that we charge per month based upon what the results are is you've got to err in light of marketing. One of my biggest crusades on this in life is to express upon small business how important marketing is. The number one thing that I see that's a failure is marketing. If you get the phone to ring and you get leads, everything else is mo better, right?
Right.
I mean, it's like, if the phone rings, and that's why we're doing it, by the way. We're here putting out quality content, quality video, quality podcasts, because it is going to help our clients. We're doing the best we can, and then that's going to drive more people into our business.
Right.
And so you're going to have to do the same thing, and you're going to have to figure out some of this stuff so that you can do the same in your business, and we'll help you do that. So trusting some professionals and giving them some, once you find somebody and you get educated, you're like, okay, these guys I believe in can know what they're doing. So yeah, I guess, and then to sum up this series, you want to give like just a summary of what we talked about and kind of why it's all important, from schema to semantic markup, clean coding.
Yeah, sure.
What Google does, and just like a 60, 90 second maybe,
Yeah.
or 2 minutes.
Design isn't just how it looks, it's how it works. And that starts at the code base, and that starts with clean code, semantic markup, and schema. All of these things combine to give Google what they want, which is a fast loading site, a site where information is well structured and clearly delineated, and where the information is what we call canonical, like this is definitely your address, this is definitely your phone number, and there's no ambiguity for them in how they view that. And then finally, we'd get to the part where it does look nice. It is something the client wants to engage with, where your customer, your client wants to engage with, wants to look at, wants to read, and finally wants to click that phone number and call you and request services.
So conversion.
Yeah, conversion. Yeah, well, if you want all that in one word, it's conversion.
Yeah, so ultimately the goal of everything is to just show up online and get calls.
Right.
But again, design is important so that Google will give you the best grade. You want to knock a leg of the horse out and you're going to have a hard time with the competition. I guarantee you there's somebody in your market that's grown savvy. It's like, I'm going to get those organic rankings, by God. I'm going to get that map placement. I'm going to get as many as I can. I'm going to get reviews. I'm going to get all the organic I can, and I'm going to invest some time into my marketing, and I respect web design.
One last point I wanted to make is
Yeah.
that Google rewards effort.
Yeah.
I don't mean the effort you make when you go out and actually do your job and do your business.
Yeah, right. You could be the best in the world. It doesn't
Yeah,
mean
they reward that effort on your website and on your internet presence. When they see, if they see a template site with sloppy content and sloppy code, they say that that person didn't put in any effort. But when they see all the things we're talking about, clean code, semantic markup, schema, nice looking design, nice structure, they say these people put in the effort, and that's why you go higher.
I'll say one other thing for you to sum up. That effort translates, because it translates into a better user experience on the Google search platform or Bing. And so the more the data is parceled, they can actually pull into the search results better data. They know it's your logo, they know it's your description, they know it's the header. And the better it's parceled too, it's kind of like hanging out with human beings. You know, based upon certain criteria, that you're with a better, smarter group of people.
Yeah.
So as that company took the time to parcel this data out, by nature, I'm sure the algorithm has a percentage of trust that it goes up by. The chances of trusting that data are probably improved, right?
Right, absolutely.
So that, and then not only do they trust it, but then once the data is parceled in that way, they can pull it into the search algorithm. your description's better in the search results, your title's better, the words that they choose to show, they might be able to pull a picture up when they couldn't before. What are the boxes under the search results? I'm drawing a blank right now. But
you would ask me.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember.
Anyway, there's also
Site links.
Site links. Yeah. So
We're experts.
a poorly designed and poorly coded website cannot pull site links. You're like, oh, how do all those boxes pull up other organic search results?
So somebody gave Google what
How
they
did they
wanted
get-
and told them this is the information and told them what it was and how to use it.
How did they get 5-star show? So I mean, we could, if you go into every little detail, which is a little motto I like to have, is every little detail of every little thing, because it does determine how well you do in your company, how well you get optimized, how well you do in life. Google grades that stuff and brings it up into search rankings, and we could go into all those little details, but this is a really great overview. I'm pretty happy with this little video here and podcast. So we hope to hear from you, and I hope you listen to some more, take a look around the site, depending on where you found this, and listen to some more good stuff, and give us a call someday so that we can help you out.
Cool. Check you later.
Bye-bye.